to the Take 3 Reactors. Don't do well at going live ever. Our motto, if we had a motto, that'd be what it was. All right. Well, Abe's really distracting me by changing the camera around.
Sorry.
It's perfect. Thank you, Abe. Okay. Back on track. All right. This week we got a really great panel of guests. We're missing Matt Kearns. I'm really distracted by this camera change thing. We're using a new system for streaming, and it's got a lot of fun features, but Abe is going crazy. Okay, so Matt can't join us this week, but that's okay because we have another great guest, Malcolm Lay. No, I'm just, Malcolm, how's it going, man?
It's so good. Just really excited, and yeah, just can't wait to talk about the matches this week.
Yeah. No, we do actually have a very special guest this week, and it's Chandru, and I'm not even going to try and say your last name. You can say it for us.
Hi, it's Chandru Dhandapani. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you.
All of our discussions.
Perfect. Yeah, and we wanted to try and get you on after your awesome debut in Innergeekdom a few months ago or a month ago. It feels like it's been a long time, but it just didn't work out scheduling wise. So it's pretty cool that we got to have you on after this match, which I thought was a great match. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I think so too. And yeah, I was a little reserved about like going to other interviews like after a match that I lost in, but it feels much better to actually go do an interview after like a victory. It's definitely much better this way than going right after a loss. Even though like I had a good showing and like most of the comments were like positive towards me. I feel like this is like even better time to like come on this interview and talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't ever fault anyone for not wanting to have an interview when they lost a match. It happens to the best of them, you know. Yeah. Everyone has lost a match, I'm pretty sure, except rookies and technically Mara. No, she did lose.
No, she lost.
Yeah, you're right. She
rookies
lost.
And Paulo Yama.
Rookies and Paulo Yama. Well, you know, I guess he's still a rookie, right?
A rookie, I guess.
But yeah, so it's gonna be really cool. We're gonna talk about all the matches. We're gonna do a quick interview with Chandru about his debut in the Schmoedown, and yeah, it's gonna be great. So thanks for checking us out for this week. So yeah, this match, David Moore, who previously lost against Kevin Smets. And yourself, who lost against Brandon Hanna. Both have been on our show before. Both are good friends. We really like them. But you know that it happens. You lose to people. And this new guy, Warfather, who just comes out of nowhere and ends up being like the personality of the entire. Like it was very weird how he came out and immediately that like everyone was just talking about his character. You know, you had a lot of people who you know, obviously said the match was very good because everyone ended up in the 20s points wise, which is an amazing Innergeekdom three-way, especially for a debuting character and two characters with 0-1 records. That's a really, really great match. But yeah, this guy just came out of nowhere, has one of the best characters in the Schmoedown I've seen. Definitely, this is a year of unique characters that I'm just absolutely loving. You've got Video Drew and her partner Tom and Warfather now just really building this really awesome group of unique talent that I absolutely love. But then you have all your like positive soul rookies of the year, you know, like yourself and David Moore and also the kid would be in there as well. You've got like different groups of rookies. I love this so much. We're really bringing in some amazing talent, but let's get into this match because there was a lot happening in this. Obviously it's a 3-person match. So there's a lot of points. Round one, pretty even. I mean, 7, 6, 5 points. So really, you know, a 2-point difference between first and last, and Warfather was a debuting character. So really like 5 is not bad for your first match in Innergeekdom. Round 2, the differential, again, pretty similar, 11, 13, 14, you know, 14 points in round 2 was very good. You guys all had opportunities to steal, so that's awesome as well, to be able to show your strengths in other areas. And then round 3, you just continue to dominate. So that's awesome for you. I'm going to shoot it to Malcolm before we talk to you about this match, because you're going to have a lot to say about it. But we're going to let Malcolm let us know his thoughts first. So Malcolm, what did you think about this Innergeekdom match?
Yeah, this was definitely a very good match. Like David showed that his performance in his first match, that he does know a lot, that he can actually rack up a lot of points because even though he put up a good fight against Kevin, he really didn't have a good showing at all in his first match. So he showed he has studied a lot, and has improved. Even and just Warfather just coming out of nowhere, just with his big personality, I was kind of disappointed they didn't do a whole Rainbow Bridge coming down, that he's just coming down from Asgard kind of entrance, because that would have been cool to see. But maybe they're saving that for a big event or something. I don't know. But but I mean, all in all, that, and even just the band with Forefather and Mark Ellis, also known as War Son, which should be his new nickname, was just great. Chandru showed why he's there, why he knows what he knows.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all 3 of them, in terms of showing what they know and showing that they belong in the league, absolutely 100%. All 3 competitors obviously showed that. They showed that they deserve more matches, especially David Moore, who now has an 0-2 record, but that really doesn't reflect the level of play he's had. His first match, definitely, if you watched our interview with Mike Kalinowski from last week, he mentioned David and how he thinks David could be one of the best Innergeekdom players in the league if he can learn the league, because there's so much strategy in here, which is something I think you have a leg up on the competition, Chandru, because you were a fan of the Schmoedown before you came into play. So you already had all these ideas about strategy. How do you think that being a fan first helped you transition into playing the game at a really high level?
So yeah, as I said, I'm a big fan of the Schmoedown. I've seen almost every match at least twice, and I've seen literally every Innergeekdom match at least 2 to 3 times. So not new to the Schmoedown or the rules or anything like that. So with the Schmoedown particularly, the trivia is only 50% of the battles, 50 to 80% of the battle, but the rest of it is actually knowing the game, playing the game, and strategizing, and thinking about what you'll do with the categories and so on, and knowing the type of questions that'll be asked, knowing the type of knowing this whole structure of the game is also really important. I kind of feel because I've been watching all these matches for such a long time, I have a sort of leg up in that aspect of the game as well. But the thing is, with Innergeekdom particularly, there's not a lot of matches that you can. There's not a long list of matches, right? So you can actually go back and watch all of them and set your prioritize. And also with David Moore, the scary part is the last match. I mean, the last match he had was in March, and it's been 4 to 5 months since his first match, which means he has had a lot of time to learn both trivia, learn all these movies, as well as learn the Schmoedown as well. So with IG especially, you can never tell how good a contestant is based on their last match, because a lot can happen within the time, and because it's a finite set of movies, they can be leagues ahead since their last match, and what you think their weakness is can they might have studied upon so much more. In his first match, we saw actor names were his actual were kind of his weakness, and he's worked on them, and he does really he actually showed he knew Anna Paquin and other names. So yeah, he's definitely improved. And going against a debut player is also really difficult, because you know nothing, you know nothing about them. There's no game tape to go on with. At least in my first match, even though Keaton Markey, we saw a lot of matches to go off. I saw a lot of matches to go off of. Chance Ellison, even though he hadn't played in IG, like I at least knew his playing style with both singles and teams, and he has also played in IG in the fan leagues, and same with Brandon Hanna as well. He had played some IG adjacent matches in the fan leagues. I think he had like one IG match. So I was able to like watch those and try to gauge what their strengths and weaknesses are, and at least know a measure of the person, like making sure it's not a Kevin Smith type wall that I'm going against was like consoling. But with this guy with the Warfather, I had like nothing to go off of, and he was also this big intimidating character physically, and he came with his own like persona, like fully fleshed out character and everything, and that kind of made me like made me a little reserved in the beginning, but then once I took the lead in round one, I felt like I was in control the whole match. So and
yeah, I mean, to me, felt that way definitely. That this if you had lost this match, it would have been because something happened with you, because you played very evenly. I mean, you got almost all the points in round one. You played your round two very smart. You went to multiple choice when you had to, and then your round three, you absolutely killed it. So I mean, it definitely was just a very even match across the board in terms of your play. I do want to ask, because you have 2 matches now under your belt, 1 loss, 1 win. What was it? I mean, what was different about the way that you went into this match as opposed to your debut? Did you feel less nerves? Did you prepare differently the day of? What changed between the 2 outings?
I think, yeah, going back to the match, I think round one, I also had like a couple near misses too. Like I missed Talos by a single letter. I wrote David Sandberg and then and then crossed it out and wrote Richard Sandberg. And without those near misses, I would have been like would have been in an even more comfortable position with like 9 points. I think I answered all my round 2 questions right because Harry Potter, and I answered all my round 3 questions right. So it was definitely a much better showing, which was also like a much better reflection of how hard I've been studying for both these matches, right? But yeah, with the Schmoedown, sometimes it's also luck based because no matter how much you study, it's the questions that are being asked on that particular match. So your accuracy not reflects to some extent how well you've been studying, but not always is an accurate reflection of what your knowledge is based on how the matches go. But with respect to preparation, I think this one I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of less prepared because it was right during graduation week. My family was here. We were like traveling around a lot and just taking a vacation basically. So I trusted that I know what I know and just a little bit of last minute learning because I had already studied up a lot for the first match. I was just going in with that knowledge and not trying to like overdo anything or like do last minute cramming because that's just going to throw me off. And it was nice to have like my family there in the audience as well, like in the studio. This is the first time and probably the only time they get to do that, and having that support helped a lot. And
I'm on mute, but that was cool to hear that your family was there. I really liked that. I like seeing that you had all that support. That was really nice.
Yeah, that was really fun, and also knowing that the nervous part of like what the fans will think of me, or like would I make a fool of myself? All those questions were definitely way stronger during my first match, but in the second one, I kind of understood that I just have to go out there and be me, like a heightened version of me, but still that's all I need to do. And beyond the entrance, like nothing is in my control. I just need to trust that I know things and answer questions as they come along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that seemed like between your first match and your second match, not that your first match was bad at all. Like you easily could have won that match if Brandon hadn't performed as well as he had. I think that it definitely was a great first showing. But you could tell this match you seemed a little bit more calm at the desk. Like you just felt like you were there for the trivia, and like your entrance was fantastic. The dancing and the energy, loved it. So much fun. Between you and David Moore coming out with dancing, it was just a lot of fun. Created a really nice atmosphere right off the bat. But when you were at the desk, you didn't let things shake you. You just played the game. If you missed something, you didn't let it impact how you were playing. It was really, really impressive. I'm wondering, what you're going to be doing moving forward, because you've got potentially some very hard matches coming up forward, because your next match is against Jared Habon, and he is kind of middle of the road. Like, he's had some really, really great performances, and he's had a couple that haven't been so great. So he's a hard one to prepare for in that respect. But then, winning that, potentially the next match, in the Q&A that Christian had on Facebook, he said that the next match would be whoever wins Hannah and Emily Rose Jacobson, you and Kevin Smets in a 3-way #1 contender match, I think is what he said is the potential for the next match after this.
I think what he said was, if I win against Jared Habon, I play the winner of
okay, and then
Emily,
that person
and then
plays
the winner of that
Smets?
plays
Okay.
Smets in a #1 contender
See, that
match. Yeah.
that makes more sense, but it's still it doesn't decline the difficulty, because instead of just 2 really hard matches, now you have 3 really hard matches coming up.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Are you going to prepare differently for your upcoming matches than you have been, or are you just going to keep trucking? Because it seems like you're doing something right with whatever you're doing, but do you change that at all to try and figure out how to prepare for, especially Kevin, if you get that far, because the way he plays is very intimidating. Like, that's his whole purpose, is to sit at the table and scare the pants off of you.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, while playing Kevin Smets, my strategy is I need to consider what my strategy is going to be, because because he's already doing flashcards and like watching the matches, watching movies multiple times, because his job he can actually afford to do that, like, and have movies play in the background while he's editing, which I sadly cannot afford to do. Which means if I'm going to start like making flashcards or do the same study technique that he's doing, he's already doing that, and he's doing it in a more intense way than I am. So my study technique would be something like different from it, like slightly perpendicular, while still learning, while still having an idea of what type of questions are being asked in Schmoedown, right? So my idea is to how to like study all these movies efficiently, because I don't have the luxury of time as much as Kevin Smith does most of the time, and so I need to be as efficient as possible, and like try different methods of studying. Maybe in those I might have a leg up over him. But sadly, the part is, unlike singles or teams where you can study for your particular opponent, or you can know what their strengths are, and you can get to choose two wedges that are your strengths on the wheel. We can do that both for singles and teams. But in IG, the wheel is pretty much set. Like, the 8 main categories are always going to be there. The 2 random categories, you don't get to decide them. It's either quotes or mixed bag or heroes and villains, and or movie release dates, which is probably not going to happen anytime soon. So those categories you kind of just need to those categories you can't like particularly study for either, or like choose based on a match. Either you just go up for the match and like see what's in front of you. So you, like I said, there's not much you can do in terms of choosing wheel slices in IG. So, and also there's not a lot in terms of thinking about what you give an opponent when you get opponent's choice. Exactly, for particular in particular Smets, I don't think he has a weakness. Maybe
if he does, he hides it real well.
He hides it really well.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe Hector Navarro was his option to like give him quotes was the best thing I would have done too. Other than that, because that's a ridiculously difficult category
like,
for almost everyone.
The tech one, whatever, weapons, ships, that one's always really hard as well,
Oh,
because you have no idea what's coming in it.
That's I would say that's one of the easier categories, especially if you're an IG.
It depends, because some of those are really deep cut, especially if you get anything from Star Wars at this point. Because a lot of those are in there. It just gets really deep cut for some of those. You have to know like really specific model names and stuff. Malcolm, that was a weird name to say your name. Malcolm, do you have any questions you want to ask Chandru about his match or anything upcoming?
Do you have any sort of aspirations to go into singles or teams?
Not as of now. I feel like in the position I'm in right now, I've just been focusing on IG, and if I go get into singles and teams, especially with how deep it is, deep the league divisions, both divisions are right now, I'd get smoked. And I also never say never, but singles, not at all. Like the thing is, if I'm going to be part of something, I want to be in like the upper echelon, and not just having being there for for just competing sake. Because the way I usually obsess over it and like try to like watch movies and get better and better between matches. So if I do that in singles, it's just like an endless array of movies I would have to continue watching, which means I would never be able to watch TV again.
Yeah.
Which is a scary proposition. I think this IG with the finite list of movies is something nice which I can focus on, which is something up my alley too. And I've said this in other interviews too. I grew up watching a lot of movies, but because I was in India, most of the movies I grew up watching were all Tamil or Hindi movies. So very few English movies I was watching growing up, which were mostly these IG movies, because these are the big blockbuster movies which would release all over the world. And other than like maybe like a Spielberg movie or like a DiCaprio or a Nolan movie. So most of my focus, most of my knowledge is around IG movies, and that's kind of my wheelhouse. That's where I belong, I feel like too. And like I said, if I'm in a division, I focus, and I obsess over it so much that I need to be in the top 5 or in the title contention or in the title discussion. I don't want to be I don't want to be like yet another contestant playing.
Right. So yeah. You don't want to be in like the bottom of the pool where like your Koi's joke intended. Like there's a lot of people in Innergeekdom that are still technically in the league that haven't played at all this season. Because we've had so many new rookies coming in, I think is one of the reasons, and also just their records aren't great. There's like the casual Innergeekdom players, and then there's like the Rachels and the Mikes and the Kevins, and now you and Brandon as well. I think depending on your next matches, I think you could easily be lumped into them as like the really hardcore players. But it's a great league to be in. I think it's the majority of the page whenever there's a poll. I think Innergeekdom's always number 1 on the poll for what's your favorite league. And for Mara's back. You're right, Brian. I always forget Mara's back. Because she hasn't played again yet. We'll see. We'll see whenever she gets to play next. I hope it's soon, because I want to see how she does. I want to see what her head's like now that she's had the time for rest. But yeah, it's a great league to be in. I do want to ask you about your upcoming match with Jared, though, because like I said, he's a hard player to study for just because of the different ways he's played the game. Depending on how he comes in to the day, he can be really a difficult opponent to face, or he could be a little bit easier. And that's nothing against Jared. He's a wonderful human being. He's extremely nice, like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
He's really nice. Yeah.
And really, really passionate about film. Just a nice guy. And I wish him all the best in his match against you. But he's got an uphill battle. He hasn't played in a very long time. He just got married, and who knows how long he's had to study. Weddings are a lot of work to put together. and he has like a wife, and they require a lot of work as well. So yeah, I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think that, I don't think it's ever a wise thing to ever think like this match is going to be really easy, but do you think that there's strategy you can play into to make your life a little bit easier here because of all the stuff that is kind of going against Jared moving into the match?
Yeah, so as soon as I found out that I'm playing Jared Havon next, my first instinct was, okay, that's going to be I have a better than 50-50 chance of winning this, right? But then you also never take any of your opponents easily, because again, like I said, it's so easy to learn, and Jared is one of these contestants that also like actually actively learns. He's not a casual player at all. You saw it in his first match. He had an impressive showing. He basically knocked out all of them. He didn't even have to answer any round 3 questions. He had like so many steals, and he had 2 KOs and 2 TKOs against a lot of players who don't play anymore, basically because of that match and because he knocked them out, literally off the division. And so he's and both matches he's lost because of bad wheel spins.
Yes.
Against Donica, he respun and I think got Star Trek, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And with Kalinowski, he got opponent's choice and he was given Middle Earth. So Jared Havon, those two are, I would say, like the only weaknesses for him, because he's really strong in all of the superhero movies, all of the Marvel, DC comic book stuff.
DC in particular, he's a huge DC fan. So
DC, Marvel, like regardless, he's really good in both of them. And like you said, he's in particular big time DC fan too. And he's good. He's really good at Star Wars, at Harry Potter. He's like decent at Harry Potter as well. So it's obvious to him as well as obvious to us that Star Trek and the Middle Earth are kind of his weaknesses, which means there's 2 possibilities, right? Like he has continued to keep them as his weaknesses, or maybe he's studied up on a lot on those 2 because to make him a more well-rounded competitor. So
right.
You can never know, and because both of his losses came to bad wheel spins, if he has a good wheel spin, he could be pretty competitive in my match too. So I'm not taking this match for granted. I'm definitely not looking past Havon as well. I'm still studying what I can do, and let's see. The only thing I can think about right now is when you're playing against another player is like what am I going to give him if he spins opponent's choice, and if I'm in the lead at the end of round 1, do I go first or do I defer, and what am I going to choose if based on the wheel spin, and that will have the least possible chance of steals just in case I miss a question, right? Those are the 3 things I think about. And with Jared Havon, he's not a particularly he plays it cool. He doesn't take it too seriously like some other players. So which means if I have a lead, I'm not going to press on the lead by going first and try to affect him emotionally. I need to know exactly how many points I need to get a consistent lead. So if I win, I'm going to let him spin first. So things like that, strategy like that. I think about that for each one of my contestants, and it kind of changes based on like what my gauge of them is, like how easy do they get nervous, and how easily do they get rattled, things like that, and what their strengths and weaknesses are like. That's kind of where my head is at right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. You're not thinking ahead of this match. You're preparing for the moment, and you definitely know a lot about the competitors. So that's I think you're doing it right. I mean, as little as I know about preparing for matches, because I'm not in the Schmoedown, I think you're doing it right. I think you got some good chances moving forward, and I'm really looking forward to your next match. Malcolm, is there anything else you wanted to ask Chandru before we move on to this Paul Preston and Lon Harris discussion?
No, nothing that comes to mind straight at this point anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, we like covered, I have like a list of questions and they just all got covered in discussion, which is like perfect. It's what you want to happen. But it also makes my job harder because like I'm like, oh, I have nothing else to ask you, man. But we do get to talk about this awesome singles match. So this is a qualifier for the tournament between Paul Preston and Lon Harris. Everyone knows Lon Harris, such a cool guy. We got to interview him last year, I think, and it was just a lot of fun. He's really awesome. Really, really enjoy his character. I think it's hilarious. It's one of my favorite characters in the Schmoedown. Has been since he debuted. I'm just looking forward to him getting more matches because it's been a while since he's had a match. Thank you, Bibiani. And I'm really excited about this. So this match actually felt a lot like the Innergeekdom match in that Paul kind of owned the match until that round 3 because he had the perfect first round with a bonus point. He had a really, really great second round outside of missing just a couple on an opponent's choice spin.
Yep.
And the only reason that the match ended up being as close as it was because Lon was able to make some points up in round 2. But even then, he wasn't ahead at all. Lon was never ahead until round 3. And Paul just kind of biffed it in round 3. It happens to the best of the players every once in a while. But this match was really interesting in that Paul was running the table and, just gave it up in the round 3. So I'm excited for Lon being able to move into the tournament. He's one of my favorites, so I get to see him play more, which is something I'm appreciating. But it is upsetting because Paul, I think, is just a very good player, and I want to see him play more, which is lucky because he's going to play again in like a week. So, it's good that we're getting more of him. I think he's a great untapped, person that jumped in at free for all. Even if he beat my girl Rachel, that's fine. It's no big deal. But yeah, so let's talk about this match. Chandru, what did you think about this match between Paul Preston and Lon Harris? And, in particular, what did you think about this dynamic between the two of them, Paul being the one who was winning the whole match and then lost it right at the end? As a competitor, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I thought going into this match, it was Lon Harris's match to lose because even though he has a 3-3 record, he's actually much better than what his record shows. Because last season we saw in the teams tournament, even with his brother who's really good at trivia, but he's not so familiar with the Schmoedown and the rules of how the division works and the league works. They went all the way to the finals of the tournament, and they were in another number 1 contender match earlier this season. So I thought Lon Harris was going to take this easily, but then Paul Preston, again, one of the really stronger rookies of this year. He had a great showing against Rachel. He had a perfect round 1 again. I think he had a perfect round 1 last time too.
Yeah.
But then he got a bonus. He got his bonus this time, and I think the opponent's choice spin, even though he did really well, I thought was where the momentum sort of shifted, at least according to me a little. Paul Preston was like visibly shaken. Like he did really well in with Kate Winslet as a category though, but still that is where we started to see some chinks in his armor. We could really see that Lon Harris could actually catch up, and I think end of his round they were 13-7. I'm just scrolling through the video right here so I can and it was also like a really ballsy move for Lon Harris to stick with quotes because that's a ridiculously hard category. Ridiculously hard category in IG, but it's in singles and teams, as we've seen as we saw in one of Top 10's matches against Patriots. quotes sometimes can be really, really easy, especially when you're pulling from this deep list of movies. They mostly go for the iconic quotes. It's not like these random arbitrary quotes that no one obscure quotes that no one has heard of. So
Right.
it could go in your way. It's a bit of a gamble, but it's I would say it's more of a gamble in IG than in singles and teams.
Yeah, I think
And
you're right about that. I think the deep cuts in Innergeekdom, like the questions have to be deep cut in Innergeekdom as
for sure.
opposed to general movies where there's so many movies, so they don't tend to be as deep cut. But I thought that Die Hard quote was actually kind of hard. Like, I mean, I'm not the biggest Die Hard fan, but I've seen the movie. You would think it'd be like one of the most popular lines from that movie, and it really wasn't. So
it wasn't, but also I'm surprised in that question Lon didn't go to multiple choice. So that's again something that's still lacking in Lon's play, even though he's a veteran. He's been playing since season 4. I don't think he watches a lot of the Schmoedown matches.
He does. That's the reason that his brother joined, was because they are fans together. They watch it together.
Okay, but yeah, it's just sometimes it feels like he's really good at trivia. But if he thinks about some of the Schmoedown strategy aspect too, if he improves his aspect of like playing the game as well, he'd be really strong going into this tournament. And I know he's already made his way into the tournament. But yeah, because it was very clear that he had no idea what the movie was. I know sometimes people he was just like guessing out of the blue, but taking that multiple choice would have helped him at least try to prevent an easy 2-point steal, right? Because I know some players. I know Sam Levine and Drew McQueenie do not like to go into multiple choice in round 2 because
they don't want someone to steal the point.
Yeah, because in multiple choice it's kind of an easier steal because you just have to guess one out of the remaining 3 if you miss it.
Yeah.
But then you also run the risk of a 2-point steal, which is much worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that I completely agree with your point about Lon not having a strategy for the Schmoedown. I think that when you're someone who's behind by as much as he was, you have to go into it and think, like, I have to go for those 2-pointers. Like, I need those 2-pointers to try and get my score up. Now, later in the round, he did go to multiple choice, but I think it's because, when you think you know the movie, multiple choice gets you the automatic point. But if you don't know what the movie is, and it didn't seem like, I mean, Paul didn't either, so it was a fairly safe bet that neither of them got the point, you just have to go for broke sometimes with those 2-pointers. And if he had gotten it, it really, I mean, I think it would have tied that round up at the end.
Yeah.
A point behind at the end of round 2. So it would have tied that whole round up. He would have been just even with them at the end. So it's a strategy. It's just maybe not the one that everyone is going to choose, because there are different strategies depending on the player and how comfortable they are with round 2 in general, and what they think their opponent's going to know versus not going to know. So there's a ton that goes into it.
For sure. Yeah.
I definitely don't know that it wasn't a strategy move for him to not go multiple choice on that one. I'm not sure what his thinking was, in that he had no idea what the movie was, but he still went for it anyway.
But then
yeah. You never know really what goes on in people's heads, honestly. Malcolm, what did you think about this match between Paul Preston and Lon Harris?
Yeah, I thought it was a very great match. Paul just suffered from what we like to call the doing a Bibiani technique, where he gets a lot of points and then fails in round 3.
Hey,
come on, no.
absolved that rule, Malcolm. How dare you?
I am not gonna let you take Bibiani's name in vain. A lot of people. Round 3 questions are difficult. There's no random. There's no guessing. There's
It's
no
true.
guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a rule.
I mean, yeah.
We used to have a rule where we always brought up Bibiani not doing well in round 3. But we abolished the rule, Malcolm. Come on. Who do you think you are? Tom Dagnino rule checked off the list.
But yeah, I mean, like, I do joke about that sometimes, but like, I do like Bibiani's one of my favorite competitors. But that aside, Paul played really well. Lon just was that lucky guesses. And on that note about multiple choice, I think there were some cases in which taking a risk on multiple choice is not worth it, especially if the question is like, which Hogwarts house is Cedric Diggory from? Where there's only literally 4 options. Like, you know that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, I know there wasn't any cases in this match, but that's a case where it's really not worth it to take multiple choice because you know there's only 4 answers anyway. And I think it's one of those ones. If you're not a fan of Harry Potter, then and you know that, then you do it, just take it down to 1 point. So, but yeah, it's going to be good to see Lon in the tournament. I can't wait to see who he faces. I know Christian revealed a certain Outlaws opponent, which is going to be an interesting match.
We're going to talk about it because I have feelings about this match. And how dare he does this on purpose? I swear to God, he's like, these reactors. Who are they going to be really upset if I make that play against? He does it on purpose. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that this was a great match. And not every match is going to be, the most high scoring match. Not every match is going to make the most sense at the end of the day, but it still was a really great match. Went down to the end of the wire. And Lon got the win. I'm excited for his next match against whoever. I'm really excited for this tournament roster to come out because I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting, like who's going to face who. The fact that the first match was announced and made me sad is something completely different. But we do have something exciting in that Paul Preston is going to be going up against David Del Rio just like Friday. He's like basically played a game and played a game and played another game. So we're getting a lot of Paul Preston. I have no complaints. I think he's fantastic. The movie guys in general, I think they are like Wild Berries Part 2. They're like the Wild Berries if they went to like an upper crust college, like Harvard. They're like the Harvard Wild Berries. They have a little more class to them, but they're still like party animals, So I think they're funny. I really like their team dynamic. But yeah, Paul Preston versus David Del Rio, who David Del Rio hasn't played in a hot minute either. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with someone who's literally had 3 matches in a row versus someone who hasn't played in a couple months. In this scenario, my bet would be on Preston, just based on the way he's been performing, plus Free For All, where he was fantastic. And David Del Rio, his record is not great, and he's going to have a little bit of rust coming back in the game. And he also, I think, hits that thing where he's a little too casual of a player, just from what we've seen. Maybe he's been studying, but definitely needs to learn the rules a little bit more. So yeah, let's get everyone's thoughts about this Friday match. We're going out of order. I don't care. But so this Friday match, who do you think is winning between Paul Preston and David Del Rio? Malcolm, why don't you go first?
Yeah, this is tough. Because like with Paul's, I don't know how close together they recorded all of Paul's matches. So
it could have literally all been on the same day.
Same day.
Yeah. So if
you never know. He wears very similar t-shirts too.
Yeah.
So if it is a case that they recorded them all on the same day, this could show him getting really tired, and David Dever could take the win, but with David not playing since I think he last played Liz, I think that was his last. Yeah, so yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see sort of how well he's studied and just ready for this match. So it's going to be a really interesting match either way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's going to be definitely interesting. I don't know that it's maybe the smartest match to have right before the tournament, just because, like I said, Paul's been really very good, and we haven't seen Del Rio in a while, and he also has been playing kind of up and down. I could be just really overlooking him, though. He could come out and surprise us and beat Paul, and Paul would be like the always a bridesmaid, never the bride of the Schmoedown 2019. Chandru, what do you think? Who's winning this match?
Yeah, so I think Paul, even in his loss, showed he's actually really good, right? 18 points is nothing to scoff at, and especially when you spun opponent's choice. And he also had a perfect round one. So if I were to guess, like if I were to bet, like I would definitely side on Paul Preston winning this match. But also another thing is he hosts trivia contests around Burbank.
Yeah.
So he's very well versed in trivia is not something new to him, and he's also like exposed some holes in his knowledge. But his round one round ones have been really good. Like even at the free for all or both his team debut as well as his two singles matches. And I feel like round two a little bit of it is up to luck and strategy, but then if you have a really good showing in round one, you're already off of a great start,
right?
Which is something you need. Like the breadth of knowledge that Paul Preston has is really good. But David Del Rio is not anyone to scoff at either. Like he won against one of the strongest debutants, in Whitney Seibold.
That's true.
No one was expecting him. No one is expecting Whitney to lose in that match, and he won against him. And even his match against Liz was again down to a bad wheel spin.
You're right. So, I think I am overlooking him a little too much, because his match against Whitney was very good. And his match against Liz Shannon Miller, I think I expected more from both of them, which is maybe why I'm overlooking him a little more than I should be. But still a fantastic outing from him in both of those matches. So you're right. He could do better than I'm expecting him to do, but I just don't know if you can get past how dominant Paul has been recently. But you are doing great at helping me transition, because you mentioned his match against Whitney. And that brings us into the what we're going to talk about now, which is that cutscene with Robert Meyer Burnett and the kid. And they're talking about the kid getting his first match against Whitney Seibold, who asked for this as a revenge match because the kid broke up Bibbs and Whitney. This storyline is really funny. I love just like Bibbs and Whitney's dynamic together, even when they're fighting in the Schmoedown. I think it's hilarious. So I'm really excited to see more of both of them. But in general, this has been one of my favorite storylines. Just Bibbs and the kid and Whitney and everything. I think it's been really well handled. I think that the pacing's been very good. They're getting the match out of the way like real quick, that you're getting your resolution to this revenge right now. The only thing we need next is for the team tournament for Mark Hoyken and Whitney's team to be up against Shazam, which is what their team name is. So that's funny. I love that team name. So this cutscene was really interesting. I love that they're doing this revenge match, but it leads me to a thought, because Robert Meyer Burnett just doesn't do people favors all the time. Like, he's a mob boss. He does people favors like when it serves his purpose. So is there a possibility that Whitney and Mark could join his faction, because he's only managing two people? There's plenty of empty room, and both of their energy is a little out there. And you look at Drew McWeeney's and Andrew Guy's energy together, and it's a little out there. I think that both Mark and Whitney are quieter, a little quieter sometimes, and so is Drew McWeeney. Andrew Guy brings a lot of words to everything. and Robert Meyer Burnett just screams things. So
Exactly.
the dynamic of that faction would be hilarious. Just like two really crazy people, and then like a bunch of like really quiet, like introverted, lovely human beings. I think that this potential faction really makes me laugh. So I kind of want it to happen, but I also don't know how it would work out. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on both the cutscene and the possibility of this faction maybe forming out of this cutscene here. What do you think about this, Chandru? Is there a potential for this faction here?
I mean, there is some potential. I would not put anything past the storylines. Like anything could happen because a year before now, no one would have guessed that Bibiani would actually team up with a rookie from season 6, and actually break up with Whitney Seibold, because at that point they were well on their way to earning a title, basically the team belts, right? So I think the whole storyline was well handled right from sowing the seeds right after free for all to like this developing friendship slash companionship between Bibbs and the kid, and so on. So I would not be surprised if that team actually ends up being in the family. Although my only problem is having two teams in a single faction, and the potential of them fighting against each other if they keep doing well in the tournament, right? Like they already have the family. Have the family fighting who's going to be in the tournament and going to play against the Wildberries. And now, if they want a second faction, although it's not out of the ordinary, it's because other factions like the Horsemen have two teams competing, both the Founding Fathers and who's the boss is in the tournament.
And they're like really high level competitors. They could easily face each other at any given time.
Exactly. Yeah, and Crimson Fury and Corruption is also both those teams are in title contention. They're going to be in the tournaments, but so it's not out of the blue. I just don't know. It'll be fun to watch Andrew Guy, especially talking with Mark Edward Hoyk.
Yeah, I could see it being something where Guy just gets really creeped out by him, because the character that Mark is playing is a little like sinister-ish. Like he's got something a little off about him, right? Like maybe it was just their entrance, the Hellraiser entrance, maybe just made me think that that's the character he's going for. But I could see Andrew being just like really like, oh hello, like please don't kill me. Like I'm like picturing all these things that could happen within this faction. So maybe I'm pushing it because I think it's funny, or who knows?
Also, I'm glad the split happened because the Self-Righteous Brothers came back, because they had a lot of potential in Anarchy. They had a really amazing first match, but you need to remember they lost against Drew McQueenie. So how is that dynamic going to play? Because they lost against Drew McQueenie and Brian Chandler's team. So you'd also be wondering what the dynamic is going to be if they're in the same faction. You've lost against someone's old team when you were in that a season ago, and now you're in the same faction together. I'd love to see that dynamic too, but I don't think Drew McQueenie cares so much. He just wants the belt back.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's fair, especially with this new team, with this up and coming rookie he's very hot right now, right? Like people are really on his side. He's got the good boy points going, you know. Malcolm, what do you think about this cutscene? And do you think this faction is just something that I'm really excited about for no reason, or could it be something that actually happens?
But yeah, I think Seibold and Brendan match will be really interesting, because Brendan has shown he can pull off some good wins over time. So it's going to be really interesting to see sort of how close he can make it. And as for this faction, I kind of like it, because the match between Drew McQueenie and Brian versus don't even remember South Righteous Brothers.
Yeah.
It was a really close match, really high scoring match. It was like, so I think with that case, I think Drew will be like, well, I mean, you put up a really good score against us. Come join us. Like we don't have any problem. And I mean, the way I like to see one of my Bennett's team is that they're all former partners of other teams, just in a revenge faction. So it's definitely
You are making good points, Malcolm. You're making good points. I appreciate your points. You are helping my argument. I like it. Continue.
So Cybold would fit really well in there now. I mean, like Mark would be the only one that hasn't really had another teammate to be revengeful, but he's going to join Cybold on his quest for revenge regardless. So I think they'll fit really well into that faction if it does end up happening.
Doug says tinfoil hats are needed. Yeah, this would be my tinfoil hat moment of the week, I think. I don't have any there haven't really been any new things, right? There's no new developments in video, Drew. There's no new developments in anyone. So my tinfoil hat really is that I want this faction to happen, and probably won't.
Okay, you should watch the match that just dropped today on Patreon. Like
I usually watch them when they go up on YouTube, just because
makes sense.
I like having it on my TV and logging into Patreon and then getting the match on YouTube and saving the link and then putting it on my TV takes way too much work. But I will watch it. We can't talk about the tinfoil hat in it today because we don't want to spoil people. But I am always on the lookout for new tinfoil hat moments. So if you have a tinfoil hat moment that you want to share and have me divulge more on, you can tag me on Twitter, Smith_K10. We'll discuss it on the show. I love conspiracy theories in the Schmoedown. It's my new favorite thing to talk about. So anytime I can talk about it, the better. But yeah, I love this faction idea. I think it's funny. Malcolm made my argument better. Thank you so much. But we do have to talk about the match that is dropping today. It's a doubleheader between Emily Rose Jacobson and Brandon Hanna, and then Shazam, which is Bibbs and the Kid. I think it's hilarious. I know Doug isn't a huge fan. It's okay, Doug. You're still a good person. And Scream Queens. These two matches are going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to them, especially the Innergeekdom match. I think Emily Rose Jacobson is coming back. She's coming back, and she's got a lot more under her belt this time around in terms of preparedness. At least from what I've heard from behind the scenes is that she's a little more prepared this time around. And Brandon, I know he's been studying his little tail off, so I'm sure he'll do well. And then Shazam versus Scream Queens, this thing could go anyway because Brandon and Bibbs have never played together before. Who knows what their dynamic is going to be like? I think it's going to be really funny. I hope their entrance is the Kid walking out and saying Shazam and then Bibbs appearing. If that's not the entrance, it's a huge missed opportunity. I expected more from you, Bibbs. If it does happen, then congratulations on my pick for entrance of the year so far. There've been a lot of good entrances this year. But yeah, so let's get everyone's opinions about these two matches. I personally do have Brandon Hanna winning. Number one, because he's a friend, but also I just think he's had better showing so far. And then Shazam versus Scream Queens, I'll give it to Bibbs and the Kid, just because I feel like in singles are more dominant than Haley and oh gosh, I can't ever remember her name.
Kaylin.
Thank you, Kaylin. It's like I want to say it's Kaylee, but I'm like, that's definitely not right. Yeah, I think that they're just better singles players. It doesn't mean they're going to be better teams, but I think as singles individually, they are better. So technically, they should be better in teams. Chandru, who do you have winning these two matches?
So there's most of the matches I have a difference between who I think will win and who I want to win. Those are different things. So first, let's talk about the Innergeekdom match between Brandon Hanna and Emily. Of course, Brandon Hanna had a great showing in his first match. Of course, he beat me too, and he also beat Chance Ellison, who was an IG champion in one of the fan leagues in his own right. and Keaton Markey, who's a veteran of the league. So he did not just beat like easy competition or like easy rookies to get to this 1-0 record. Emily had a slow start in her match, but then still had a TKO victory. Like her round 2 Star Wars was a dominant performance, especially she didn't get shaken after a poor round 1 performance. She dug her heels in round 2 and said, "No, I'm here to compete." And that is something you need, to not be shaken by one wrong answer, or like if something is not going your way. You shouldn't be disheartened by any of those. One thing that is on Emily's side, though, even though her first match was not that impressive, is she's had a long time since her first match, and she always knew she was going to get a second match because her first match was a victory regardless.
Yeah.
So she must have been preparing this entire time. I think about 4 to 5 months since her debut. Just like David Moore was in my match.
He was like night and day. I know Ellis in the pre-match interviews of your match said that David Moore like took Smets down to the wire, and I was like, did you watch the match? Mark's too nice to be mean to anyone, even if he's telling the truth. Because David Moore just really didn't understand the game when he came in the first match, and he put in a lot of work.
Yeah,
like you can tell he put in a lot of work. So it'll be interesting to see how much work Emily has put in. I think that's a really good point you made.
Yeah. So I think what Mark Ellis was trying to get at was at least his knockout against Kevin Smith was a TKO. He at least went to round 3, but so many veterans of the league
wasn't a KO.
Exactly. So many veterans of the league like Jay Washington and Hector Navarro and Adam Halawat were KO'd. I think Adam and Hector didn't even finish their round 2, and they were knocked out before that. They were mathematically eliminated before that.
Yeah.
So compared to all those showings, I think David Moore was closer. I think he had a 7-point round 1 against Kevin Smith's inevitable perfect round 1, which is Kevin Smith's only perfect round 1 so far. He's been having trouble since then. In round 1 at least.
Yeah, I mean trouble in quotes.
Trouble in quotes. With respect to what we expect of Kevin Smith, if he's not getting a perfect round 1, we'll be like, wait, what is happening? What's wrong?
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, Superman has a weakness all of a sudden.
Exactly. So he wasn't that bad in his first match either, but his improvement since then, because the league has also evolved, the division has also evolved to have tougher and tougher questions. I think he had tough set of questions in round 3. His 5-pointer was crazy tough, and that's the only reason he got eliminated so quickly. But then other than that, he had a great showing. Speaking of that, Emily could have that same sort of night and day improvement and come back to have a great showing in this next match. And I want that to happen because I just don't like Brandon Hanna as a person.
you come on our show, you say things about our friends. No, I'm just joking. I know. Schmoedown personalities run hot.
During my first match, he was friendly. Like we were both this like good rookie, fun rookies trying to fight against this like common evil, which at that time was Chance Ellison. But ever since his victory in his match, he's been just running his mouth about how he won and how he's been acting like he's God's gift to the IG division, and that's kind of like gotten on my nerves a little bit. And I kind of want Emily to win and like shut him up, or otherwise, if otherwise either Jared or me, we're going to shut him up in the next match anyway.
Oh man, I can't wait. This is a rivalry that's developing between you.
It just gets on my nerves so much.
No, I mean, hey, like I said, Schmoedown personalities run hot. It is what it is.
So like I said, who I think will win, probably Brandon, and who I want to win, Emily. Just cause I want more female presence in IG.
Sure.
Rachel Cushing and Mara are amazing. Definitely want Emily to do well in IG too. Keaton is a great presence. I hope she comes back. she also does a little bit more studying in the league, and I'm always for more diversity in the IG league.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think wanting more diversity is never an issue for me specifically, or anyone really. But whoever's the best person should win at the end of the day. If Emily has been studying as much as everyone says she has been, then she could win. I think that's fair. I'll never push a female competitor like to the end of this just because I think she's going to lose a match. Malcolm, who do you have with these matches here?
Yeah, I mean, I do think Brandon's going to pull out the win because, it depends on how much Emily has been studying, and we know like her and Adam have joined together because we saw them both come out together for the live event. So Adam's probably been helping her study, and we know how much of a beast Adam is in a geekdom sometimes. So like he's really good. When he hasn't been spending a whole day on the Comic Con floor. So but yeah, so I think Brandon's going to win that one. As for Shazam and Scream Queens, I don't know what's going to happen there. I think Shazam will pull out the win, but Scream Queens are not to be taken lightly because they've shown to come close to the wire before against the other matches, so anything is possible. And if anyone's going to cause an upset, I think Scream Queens could.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you because Scream Queens has been able to pull out wins that I didn't think they should have had before. Not saying they're not good. They are, but I feel like they're question set, like what they're great at, I think is really limited. More so than other teams. And there's nothing wrong with having a limited, specialization. Nothing wrong with it. In my job, I'm very specialized to what I'm doing. And if it's outside of that, I have no idea what's going on. It makes me invaluable to my market. Same with these girls, ladies, women. They are fantastic at what they're doing. They know what they're doing with the categories that they're great at, with horror, with new releases. I think was what Haley got last time in the team match, new releases. And she did very well. They know what they know. But at the same time, there's a lot of gaps. So if they can translate those strengths into this match, they could win. Absolutely. It's just a lot more risky to be a team like what they are. It can pay off real well, but it can also really take you down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. We're going to close the show just with me saying how mad I am that Kristen literally put up Roka versus Rachel Silvestrini. My girl, Rachel Silvestrini, who slept on my couch in Chicago for Celebration, who played with my child, who is the most wonderful human being in the whole world. How dare you? Versus John Roka, who I started out not liking in the Schmoedown at all when it first started. I really did not like his character. I didn't understand it. I thought this guy is just, I can't stand his character. And then as it went on, I was like, never mind. His character's great. He's a great person. I've grown to know him more as an actual human being outside of the Schmoedown. I think he's fantastic. I have no problems with him ever anymore. He's perfect. I also don't want him getting mad at me because when we have to do predictions for this match, I'm gonna have to break someone's heart here. And John Mariano in the Facebook group was like, just don't pick sides. I'm like, you don't run a Schmoedown Reactors after. I have to pick sides. It's part of the game, and I'm gonna be forced to pick one of these two people. And I told John, I'm like, Roka doesn't accept that kind of support. You either support him or you don't. So it's gonna be really difficult for me. How dare you, Christian? How dare you did this on purpose, and I don't appreciate it. How dare you? What do you guys think about this new match? Maybe everyone's opinions about this match won't be as strong as mine. It just puts me in that exact right spot where it's just like, this is like, if it was Janine versus Rachel, it would be worse, but not by much.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about this? It's an interesting matchup anyway, besides the fact that it's breaking my heart. But I mean, it just got announced. It's fresh news. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, I'm at the same boat as Duke. I like both John and Rachel. When it comes to predicting, I'll probably go to literally find a coin, not one as extravagant as a Batman or Superman coin, but I'm going to find a coin and flip it to determine who I want to win. Because I cannot pick for the life of me because they're both good. I mean, part of me wants Rachel to do the upset, but part of me wants John to go on because I would like to see John become a champion again because he's just that good.
Well, also he has hinted a lot that this might be his last go at singles.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen. He's such a staple of the Schmoedown that I really don't want to see him walk away from it. Although, yeah, Christian said I'll believe it when I see it. John threatens to walk away a lot in post-match interviews, and then at the end he's like, "But I'm coming back." So that's what I like about John. Nothing keeps him down for long. What do you think, Chandru? What is this match heartbreaking for you? I don't actually know who you prefer Schmoedown.
Rachel, like off stage, offline. I'm such a great friend with such great friends with Rachel. And I love her as a person. She's an amazing presence, both in the Schmoedown and in just the world in general. She's an awesome person, and I definitely, again, who I think is going to win and who I want to win are totally different in this match as well. I definitely want Rachel to win in this match, but then Roka, Roka's always been an amazing player, and he continues to keep improving himself as well. His match against Mark Andreyko earlier this season, and his triple threat against Bibiani, he had kind of a medium well showing, but then that match was where Bibiani was playing lights out, and even in the fatal fight in the Manager Bowl in the 5-way, Roka proved that he's not an old dog. He still has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and he's still like competent and competitive in the league, and it's going to be interesting to watch. But so if I have to put money on it, I'll say Roka wins. But who I want to win and have an amazing tournament run, it's going to be Rachel. It's okay. Also, like, Rachel has a lot of strengths which are typically Roka's weaknesses. Like Rachel's amazing in Disney.
Yes.
If you're not a Patreon, join the Patreon just to watch the Disney match and the MCU match. That alone is like worth how much.
And the Jurassic Park match and the Jurassic Park Harry Potter match and
the movie release dates match. Like just the exhibition matches which are exclusive for paying Patreons. Those are definitely worth it. If you're not on the Patreon, please join just so you can see those matches. Those are worth the $1 a month.
I agree.
$2 a month you're paying.
I agree.
She also has Kevin Smith as a strength. And which I don't think John Roca is really good at. But again, John Roca's strengths are also like very niche, like westerns and biopics.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are really strong in those categories either. So both of these contestants are like very have like these very niche strengths. It's going to come down to the wheel and what their breadth of knowledge is going in round one.
I think that's a fair assessment. Malcolm, did you have something else you wanted to say?
I was about to say, in regards to the exhibition matches, I think the movie release dates match, a bunch of them are actually available for everyone because they released them.
Yeah, the ones that released last year were all put on YouTube. So you can watch all those, but the ones that were released this year, like the MCU match and the Star Trek match that dropped,
Harry Potter match.
And Harry Potter and also Disney, those are all just on the Patreon. Christian was just like teasing everyone, like, "Ooh, look at these fancy
look at
matchups.
what you get.
You can't watch them anymore." He likes doing things that make me upset, so that's fair. So yeah, definitely. So that's all we got for today. It's good because I got to go do some stuff. Work. I have to go back to work.
I have to go study for my match against Jared.
There you go. See, different work. You got to work real hard because we got to keep you in the Schmoedown as long as we can, right, man?
Yeah, that's my hope too.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what we got. During this taping, Christian posted a link for the Shire Wolves thing, but it's unavailable. So I was gonna bring up what happened in it, but like who the heck knows? So it'll probably drop hilariously after we've done taping this, which is what always happens with Schmoedown news and us taping the summit.
Yeah.
Inevitably, something huge will drop as soon as we turn off the cameras. Yeah. So let's find out where we can find everyone on the internet. So, Chandru, do you have anything you want to plug? Do you do any shows or just what's your Twitter stuff, all that wonderfulness?
I'm just on the Schmoedown. My Twitter handle and Instagram is at Chandru Thinks. Follow me both on Twitter and Instagram. If I get a lot of followers, I'll start tweeting a lot more. Then I start tweeting and posting a lot more than I am right now. And come join the Facebook movie trivia Schmoedown Facebook group. It's so much fun. There's a lot of discussions, fun and otherwise happening there. Other than that, so feel free to tag me as long as you're not particularly hurting me in those. As long as you're not personally hurting me in those Facebook posts. I always hang out to that Facebook group way too often. Like that's the only reason I kind of go on Facebook, because otherwise I think Facebook is kind of canceled. So
okay, that's fair.
Hit me up. Come watch any of the live Schmoedown matches in LA or nearby. I'll be there in the audience whether I'm participating or not. Come say hi. Other than that, watch more of the Schmoedown. Join the Patreon.
Perfect. Abe, who was behind the scenes this whole episode, thank you so much for changing the cameras.
I was going to change cameras, but you were getting mad, so I still didn't.
It was very distracting. Every time you did it, I heard it click, and I was like, "Oh no, he's changed the cameras again." Where can we find you? Not on Facebook.
You can follow him on Twitter at AbrahamF25.
Thank you. Don't follow him on Facebook because he doesn't want you stalking him on Facebook.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
On Instagram at AbrahamF25.
There you go. He posts amazing pictures of the food he makes, and then he refuses to come visit and make me food. How dare you? Is
pay for my flight?
Inexcusable. No, I won't. You have to pay for your own flight. Malcolm, where can we find you, and what awesome shows do you have to plug for us this week?
You can find me hosting Rankum every Sunday night. Next week's topic is going to be top 12 animated movie sequels. You can also find me hosting Formula Random every Tuesday. And this week is the match I kind of put up a post trying to challenge people to want to be in, and then people took out my bluff, and it's a 50 Shades of Grey random match. So yeah,
amazing.
And also, starting this week, the first episode of Late TV Fights, the TV debating show, is actually dropping, and I believe the first match that's dropping this week is our very own Matt Kearns versus Jacoby Bancroft. So that'll be a very fun match to watch. I also compete in a bunch.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I also compete in a bunch of fan leagues as well.
Yeah, Malcolm is literally everywhere. Just, I don't know how he does it. He's cloned himself, and that's my tinfoil hat moment of the day, actually. The real one is that he's cloned himself, and now that's how he's on literally every show ever. And also directing all the movies because he's also Peter Jackson. So that's all we have. Oh yeah, my plugs. I guess I'm not important. You can find me _Kate, and the number, not the word. Twitter, Instagram, Stardust. Even though I don't post anything on Stardust, you can also find me right here hosting this show. If you don't know what the show is, It's been an hour and 18 minutes. I don't know what you're doing with your life. But yep, other than that, just every once in a while, I'll be on some other shows. If we do a reaction, who knows? We're all busy. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Or Facebook, I guess. I use Facebook. I'm old. All right. Well, that's all we got. Thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't gone on to the YouTube page and actually liked and commented on the actual Schmoedown videos, please do that. It's really important for all those fancy algorithms. If you want to like our video as well, that's fine too. It's, it is what it is. But thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you guys have a wonderful week watching all those Schmoedown matches. Take care. I'm just going to finger gun until